the series Your Name by Makoto Shinkai. This is the spoiler review, and I'm really going to pull no punches here because I just want to talk about how much I enjoyed this read. And please comment down below if you've read the series or watched the movie. A movie review will be coming after this, but I really just want to talk to people about this because of how much I enjoyed it. So, as you probably know, having either read the book or heard something about it, you're following two high schoolers named Taki and Mitsuha, and they just happen to switch bodies after Mitsuha makes a wish. The two main protagonists you follow are just these little cinnamon rolls, and I love following them, and they're just, so cute and so sweet. And I loved the story of them. I definitely did the movie book thing in the wrong order. I saw the movie first, which is why I found the series and decided and reviewed it, because I wanted to share it with you guys. Because I think anybody that has watched or read this is going to have extreme feelings one way or the other about it. This doesn't feel like something that people will either be pretty mad about, they're either going to love it or hate it. And I lucked out in that the people that shared the movie with me at first loved it. My husband and one of his best friends, who is very much an anime aficionado, we get together with him every couple of weeks and do a virtual anime screening. And he just shares some of his favorite stuff with us, and we've been really enjoying it. And Your Name is one of the things they shared. And what else can I say other than I loved it and wanted to share it with you guys? And I figured out how to justify it with the manga. So I'll jump into my likes and dislikes here. One big thing that I liked here is I actually liked how they did the time dissonance in this story. I usually hate time travel bullshit in romance, but here it was done well, and it wasn't necessarily revealed until farther in, so the story itself was more on the focus of them sharing their lives versus the actual romance. The romance just kind of was allowed to happen naturally, and so I was rooting for Taki and Mitsuha by the time they kind of fell in love. It was just exquisitely done, in my opinion. My second is that I adored Mitsuha and Taki. They were, like I mentioned in the beginning, they were adorable little cinnamon rolls. I loved following them, both in their own life and in each other's lives, and just the impact they had. I loved it because it really let you see how they would complement each other without actually having them interact in a normal way. It was very interesting, and I thought it very sweet. And then the third positive, the ending killed me. So the third volume, or that equivalent in the movie, I basically cried through the whole thing. I cried through most of the third volume reading it. I'm naturally just a crier when it comes to emotions, but it caught me. I think the ending is more the part where people are going to like or dislike it. And for me, it just hit the spot, like the earnestness and the loveliness of their actions for each other for the end goal that they wanted. It was just very sweet, and I loved it. And now I'm going to go into my dislikes. These are, basically the dislikes I had in the first one, because they're the same. I'm just going to go into more detail here. So, the dialogue was super rough in the first volume, especially. By the second and third, it had kind of figured itself out because you got to know the characters a little bit more, so the dialogue was a little bit less stilted and a little bit less cliched. And the info dumping kind of stopped after the first volume, which really helped. For me, one of the dislikes was pacing, and although for the most part in volumes 2 and 3 it was pretty flawless, it was very hard to get through the first book, even though I knew what was going to happen because of the movie. But the pacing was just very slow. You had a really nice cold open, but then it immediately slowed down because of all the info dumping and trying to get you to know the characters and to get to know the setting. And it just it was ooh, intriguing. And then it just was hitting a brick wall. It slowed right down before picking up again. So that was very irritating. My third negative is I wish some of the side characters had gotten a little bit more love. Specifically, I would have loved to get more of Mitsuha's relationship with her sister. Just because her sister did seem to be so much younger, but it always seemed to be hinting at they had like a pretty good relationship, but they never really expanded on it. And I would have loved to see Mitsuha spending a lot more like sister time with her sister, I guess. Like, I would have just loved to see that blossom a little bit more. And that's partially like because I have a younger sister, and although we aren't particularly close in terms, like, we weren't particularly close growing up, we're closer now, so it's like I would have loved to see if that was the kind of dynamic they had, or if it was more like stereotypical sister relationship in books. And now we're here for our final installment of the spoiler review, and that's to go over characters in the wrap-up. So with the characters, I'm really just gonna briefly go over them, because a lot of what I like about them I've already talked about. So, like, I loved how fun Taki was, I loved how sweet Mitsuha was, I loved the way they interacted through their phones, in the diary entries. I loved the way they complimented each other in each other's lives, even though you never really got to see them interact in a normal way. And as they grew and gained depth, I really appreciated seeing that with their characters and going on this adventure with them. As I mentioned, I loved to see how they complemented each other in terms of like temperament and personality. I also really enjoyed the side characters. As much as I talked about a dislike being not getting enough of interaction between Mitsuha and her little sister, let's be honest, depending on how much younger she is, they're probably not going to interact that much. So even though I would have loved it, it's not that important to the story, and I recognize that. Overall, they were just really well done. A little bit stereotyped, but like fun and realistic and relatable. And I'm gonna leave it there. And then I'll go to my wrap up. So the average for the 3 books in the series is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The first book for me was a 4-star, second book 4.5, and the third book was 5. I really enjoyed this series, like the same way I enjoyed the movie. It was cute, it was sweet, it was both heartwarming and heart-wrenching, and I just can't get over how well suited this story was for me. I'm sure I wasn't necessarily the intended audience, but let's be honest, neither were 30-year-old men, which are the people who introduced me to this. The art style is just fun and cute, and it suits the story very well. And although the dialogue started off pretty rough, by the end it was very touching, and just the story in general was just so cute and sweet and wholesome. I can't recommend it enough. I know there's people that aren't going to like this kind of story, and even people who usually like this kind of story might not like this one, but talk to me below about it. I adored this series, and I really want to talk to someone about it, and so I would recommend it. And if you don't want to read it, at least check out the movie. It's definitely worth it. I think it's on Funimation is where it streams, even though my friend had like our friend that I watched this with, I think had a physical copy from somewhere. And honestly, guys, I could go into more detail. I could talk about it way more than necessary. But this was just a very lovely read, and I recommend it. And I'll see you guys in the next one, where I ramble, but think I'm waxing poetic about the movie. Peace.